Hey guys, this is part 17 of Azure tutorial. In this video, we will have a small introduction to Microsoft Azure Data Studio. So, what is Azure Data Studio? Azure Data Studio is a cross-platform database tool for data professionals using on-premises and cloud data platforms on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Azure Data Studio offers a modern editor experience with IntelliSense, code snippets, source control integration, and an integrated terminal. It's engineered with the data platform user in mind, with built-in character charting of query result sets and customizable dashboards. How to get Azure Data Studio? We get Azure Data Studio pre-installed by downloading the latest version of SQL Server Management Studio 2019. In our previous video, we have downloaded Azure Data Studio, so for reference, you can refer it down. The video URL will be uploaded in the description of this video. What are the benefits of Azure Data Studio? Multiple tab windows. We can open multiple SQL query windows in Azure Data Studio. Rich SQL editor, IntelliSense. While writing code, we get IntelliSense, which is very helpful and can fasten our work. Code snippets and code navigation is one another great benefit which is available in Azure Data Studio. Source control integration, integrated terminal. You can run command line tools such as Bash, PowerShell, SQL command prompt, etc. right from within Azure Data Studio. Extensible and extensive authoring, meaning we can add different Azure accounts to our Azure Data Studio. This is the screen of Azure Data Studio. Azure Data Studio is very user friendly. A lot of support to this app can be obtained from various online resources, Microsoft of course being the main one. There are different extensions available in Azure Data Studio to enjoy the experience. Each extension of Azure Data Studio is fine-tuned and can work with a lot amount of data simultaneously. Here I have the screen of Azure Data Studio open. On the left hand side we see the extensions icon, and here we see all the installed extensions. Currently I don't have any extensions installed, and here in the marketplace we get a whole number of extensions available. These extensions are compared to NuGet packages that are available in Visual Studio. These extensions are also available in Visual Studio Code. Microsoft continuously provides updates and features to expand the power of this data studio. So, whenever any update releases, we get a prompt saying to apply to the latest updates. Also, we have the option to update now itself or later, or if we want, we can even see what updates are released and read about its functionalities through the release notes. So here I see the prompt to apply to the latest update. I can update now itself or later, or I can even read about the updates. We can also link our Azure Subscribe Microsoft account to this application, so we can directly work in the cloud and can share and collaborate with others. So here if I click the person icon, I have my Azure account linked here. We can also search for our projects in Azure to the search functionality. Here I have the search icon. Here I can search for various pre-created projects that are pre-created projects in Azure Data Studio. We can also import documents in Azure. For example, if you have a pre-done project in Azure Web Experience, that is the Azure portal, we can import it into our Data Studio and can continue to work on it or execute it. There are a whole bunch of settings to customize the layout of Data Studio. Speaking about the layout, if we change the layout into dark mode, it will almost look like Visual Studio Code. I hope you are aware of Visual Studio Code. So if we go to settings and go to color theme, we see a whole bunch of themes, and here if we select this dark Azure Data Studio theme, this almost looks like the experience that we get in Visual Studio Code. Let's now see the basic functionalities. This we have already seen. I will show you how to connect to how to remotely connect a SQL server that is available in Azure. Let's go to the Azure portal, and here in the resource group, let's go to the resource group, and here I have a resource group created, RG test SQL database. Let's go to the resource group, and here I have a SQL server and a SQL database created. To log in to log into this data to log into this database, or to gain remote access to access from different source, we have to click on this. We have to go to the SQL Server properties. Keeping this window open, I will shift to Microsoft Azure Data Studio. So here, the ever simplest way is to click this hyperlink that says new connection. So here, connection time, let's keep it Microsoft SQL Server. And server, here it expects the server name, and I can see the server name right over here. I will copy this to clipboard and I will paste it here. Windows authentication, I will use the SQL authentication, and this username and password are the credentials that are provided during the creation of SQL Server in Azure. So let me provide it. uh, Password is this, and click remember. And here, with these credentials entered, if we expand this, it will be loading the what all databases are present in this sample server server. So here on the portal, if I go to SQL databases blade, I see the DB testing database. So if I expand this list, I will see the DB testing database here. Let's click the default options, everything, and here let's click the connect button. So here it's trying to establish a connection to the Azure available in uh, or the SQL Server in Azure. So here it's successfully connected. If I want to launch a new query, I can simply click this button, and here we are dropped into a brand new SQL instance. So here in this notepad file, I have some SQL code typing written in. I will just copy this code and paste it here. This this code is of course straightforward. Here, this code creates a table in the database. Here, it inserts some rows, and this code will retrieve the data from the table. And this line of code will drop the SQL database. Let's now create the table. I will select this and click run. Here in the messages tab, I will soon see command completed successfully. So here I see that. Then now, so here, let's now move on to the Azure portal. So here, select the database, and here is an option called query editor. This option is in preview right now, but it works great. Let's just test it out. Now here I am on the DB testing database. So here if I expand the tables folder, I see the table which has been created in the Azure Data Studio. Let's insert the rows to this query editor available in Azure. Let's paste the code, and here let's select the run button. Query succeeded. Affected rows 4. These 4 rows are affected in the table. Let's now see if the rows are even inserted. Let me click the run button, and here I see all the data which is inserted. We can even drop the database. Let me just drop it to the query editor. Let's run it, and if I refresh this page, uh, I will no longer see this. I will no longer see this table. Let's click here, and if I expand the tables folder, I will no longer see here. And here, if I execute this, I will get an error: invalid object name table employee. Let's now move to the slides. Here, key points during creation of database in Azure. While creating the SQL Server, make sure to check the authentication type as use SQL authentication, as Azure Active Directory make remote connections complex. While creating the SQL database in the networking blade under the network connectivity, Make sure to check the connectivity method as public endpoint to allow remote connections. Also check allow Azure services and resources to access this server and add current IP client IP address to allow your connections to allow your current specific machine to gain access to the database. Of course, we are once again going to discuss this means we are once again going to discuss Azure databases in our upcoming videos. Before concluding this video, I am declaring that from now I am going to use Azure Data Studio to run and execute database queries. In the next video, we will see how to deploy an Azure ASP.NET Web Application project data-driven by, data-driven by SQL Server to Azure and executing queries against it through the Azure Data Studio in our upcoming video. That's it in this video. Thank you for listening.